I have many names. My people call me a cuckoo Khan, but to my enemies, they call me Namor.
In my culture, death is not the end, but a stepping off point.
Wakanda forever. Welcome everybody, I'm RJ the Nerdy Brew, and here on this channel we talk TV, movies, and everything in between, all while drinking a cup of coffee. Now if you like one of those things or all of those things, won't you consider subscribing, and hit that notification bell, and becoming a fellow Brewster. So today, fellow Brewsters, this is a coffee talk on Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So I was thinking before starting this, I was like, where am I going to start? And how am I going to be able to convey this conversation? Because this is not necessarily a review, it's just my thoughts overall and having a cup of coffee with you. So this is what we're doing, and this is why we're here. And I just want to say, I thought wearing white would be definitely appropriate because of the themes that are in the movie. So here we are, we rocking white, and this is what we're doing. Thank you very much. So all in all, with all that being said, I'm just gonna start with the very beginning, where this movie starts off with the sudden spoilers. This movie starts off with the sudden death of T'Challa, and with it being sudden, it is the characters going through this. It's the characters going through this event, and the death is sudden. And with the death being sudden, it is a correlation how his passing was also sudden to the rest of the world, because they kept his illness under wraps, and T'Challa's character also had an illness, and dealing with the event such in a fast-paced manner, it's also conveying that the characters had to deal with the passing as well. And that heavy theme of death, his death, and reconciling with that is a theme that is carried throughout the rest of the movie. And so that's how the movie starts. And instead of going through regular Marvel fanfare with their Marvel logo and their anthem, they decided to have it silenced and just show purposeful images of Chadwick Boseman, as in commemoration of him playing this character of T'Challa, which I thought was very tasteful. But the movie moves along, and when the movie moves along, it shows that it's trying to introduce and craft a future of what the MCU was going to do, and the repercussions and the events after T'Challa, and that leaves a power vacuum. And leaving this power vacuum shows the Western first world ideology trying to impose on Wakanda. They always want to go on indigenous lands with resource. It has been a staple and a play for all these Western worlds for hundreds of years, for them to become first world powers, to impose on indigenous people to gain their resources. And that is a conflict that shows up in the beginning of the movie for Ramonda, played by Angela Bassett, to be in the forefront as queen, dealing with these outside incursions from the politics, right? Being this powerful first world nation of Wakanda itself, but with all these other first world powers that are now second due to not having the influence and power of Wakanda, feel like they could trickle in and get what they want to, but Wakanda has every right to protect what they have. But with that being happening, with these powers are looking for vibranium, that they have a device, and using that device, seeking out for it. And with that exploration that is unwanted and unsanctioned, comes in Tulu. Hold up, 1 second. Comes in Tulukan. And with Tulukan, I might do that every time, but with Tulukan, they get introduced, and it's this new nation, this new power, and who is it and what is it about? And it's an inciting incident to allow the movie to introduce Tulukan and Nemur as these antagonists carried out throughout the movie. And that is a way for them in turn to introduce Riri Williams, who is played by Dominique Thorne. And with playing Dominique Thorne, or Riri Williams playing Dominique Thorne, they introduce the character of Ironheart, who will have her own Disney Plus show, and she is pulled right out of the comics. And they aged her up because in the comics she's 15, but she's a prodigy. They show her mental, technical aptitude of her being industrious and a genius. And with them doing that, she was able to show her black girl magic of making this device. And making this, I don't know why I emphasize that so hard, but making that device, and her making the device was to find vibranium. And it just goes into a lived-in experience of being told that you can't do something because of who you are and what you look like, that she wanted to prove that wrong. But that technology was able to go to the government, which was able to be used without her knowledge, and she only did it as an experiment for college, and she's at MIT. And that turned for Namor to see her as a threat, because if she's gone, they can't reproduce whatever she's done, right? They can't keep doing it, and Tolokan cannot be, found out about, or not to be, part of the problem, right? But Tolokan ends up becoming part of the problem that they do in the movie. And as the movie moves forward, we get introduced in further backstory of Tulukan and Namor. And what I loved about Namor and the story is that Namor, his character from page to screen was perfect personification, perfect characterization. His whole mind frame is get down or lay down. If you're not rolling with us, you rolling against us. And he ride for his set, point blank, period. And with him being with that mind frame, he comes and he kidnaps Riri, and he kidnaps Shuri. He treats them as high-level guests inside of his home, reminiscent to like Beauty and the Beast when Belle was there. But he's there, and they explore Tulukan, and with them exploring Tulukan and having this conversation, he's like, I want Wakanda to be an ally, not an enemy. And he is like, if y'all not, he is like, I'm coming after y'all first and foremost, because the surface world, does bad things. Every environmentalist villain has that mind frame of polluting the skies, polluting the water, and the surface world is the cause. And this is my home. Like, I live down here. So I enjoyed it. I felt like Tulukan was filmed well. Yeah, Tulukan was filmed well. But hi, it's me, RJ. I was doing editing, and I realized that I forgot to put in another thing that I enjoyed in the movie, and one thing that I definitely enjoyed was the soundtrack. I feel like the implementation of the soundtrack was able to convey the emotions that they were trying to enact, and I felt like it had great placement throughout the movie to accentuate and to elevate the scenes. And that's just another thing that I liked. Back to your regular review. Bye! With the inclusion of Riri Williams, I should say this. I just want to say this. With the inclusion of Riri Williams, it was able to put in, or she was adding levity throughout the movie, because the movie had heavy themes. So she was a good contrast to the heavy weight that all the other characters were dealing with, because Namor was very purposeful and very focused on his goals and what he was trying to do. He's like, one innocent to die will save millions. So that's where his mind was at. And, you know, Shuri was trying to be diplomatic as a diplomatic representative of Wakanda at the time. And that, with her being kidnapped, was able to reintroduce Nakia into the movie, because Ramonda goes to her and like, yo, you a war dog. You're a war dog. You know how to infiltrate. I'm gonna need for you to do your spy skills to get my daughter up out of there. And it happens to be successful, and that is something that I loved very, very much. Because what I loved so much is it was sprinkled throughout the movie, but how the movie was developed is that it allowed these black women to be in the forefront, and it allowed them to go through this emotional journey with dealing with this loss of somebody who was so impactful in their life. Just this one scene where Okoye and Nakia are talking about T'Challa, and she's like, she's explaining who she is or where she been at, but she's like, you know, T'Challa was all these things to everyone else, but to me, he was everything. And I just loved how she had to put that weight on, that she was just in a place where she couldn't take on that emotional depth of being in an environment where it's constantly reminding her of someone who culminated her mind and her spirit. And I just think that was just very good writing, and having all of these people dealing with that, and with Queen Ramonda, with Angela Bassett, she brings a powerful performance, and her bringing her performance, the weight of her being a steward or queen regent at the time, because there wasn't nothing formal, it just a role that she happened to inherit. She's dealing with all of that, and I just enjoyed her place. She had to be a mother, and not only being a mother, she had to be a queen as a political figure. And it was these two of Shuri and her mother, not being royalty, not being who they are in the sense of this advanced scientific mind and being a queen. They had to be these two people dealing with their new family dynamic and dichotomy with one another, dealing with the fact of the people that they love, their male figures, have died. And I liked within the contrast of that Ramonda was Shuri's guidance in this film, as to T'Chaka was T'Challa's guidance in the first movie. And so that was a stepping stone and a contrast, reflecting on where they are and where they're going. So I definitely enjoyed that. Another thing I enjoyed was the production quality in this movie. When it comes to the lighting, the cinematography, the costumes, the CGI, also the overall visuals of the movie, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I felt like this is one of the best looking films in the MCU since Infinity War. I definitely enjoyed the look of Thanos, and I felt, and especially his Black Order as well. The CGI with the Black Order was great looking. So this movie, especially with the underwater work, showing the underwater work, and then having some of the action scenes, I just felt like it just looked great. I think that the criticisms from the first movie about the CGI was just taken to heart and was able to be improved upon in this movie. And there was this action scene, because once again I'm talking about the visuals, the action scene when Okoye fought with the people from Tulukan, when they fought, and it was during the chase scene fighting, trying to protect Riri. They fought on this bridge, and that fight scene, Okoye killed them easily, effortlessly. It was such a great fight. They have Atuma in the movie, and for those who don't know, Atuma is actually a villain to Namor, who always wants to usurp the throne and be the leader of Atlantis. But in this movie, he was an ally. Matter of fact, he was a subservient to Namor in this movie. But with that, they get a fight, and he beats her indiscriminately. He's like, my hands is rated E for everyone. Anyone could get it. So he gives her a powerful beatdown. But that fight and the choreography between that fight, it was just great. And the crazy thing is to just see them run off after getting their butts handed to them. I was like, what? Yeah, it was just crazy to see. But I enjoyed that. Vast improvement when it came to the CGI and the action. The choreography when it came to the action, vast improvement from the first movie. And I was highly entertained watching it go down. I just enjoyed it. And the action through the movie is spread without, and Namor was a force to be reckoned with. And if anybody really has problems with certain things that happen in the movie, it's pulled right out of the comics. So his attack, I'll say this, in the comics, Wakanda and Atlantis goes to war, and Shuri strikes first. And in that book, there's retaliation through Namor, and Namor does flood Wakanda. So with this happening in the movie of him attacking in this movie, what was different was that he was offensive, but he said he was gonna do it in this movie. But that pulled right out of the comics. His conflict with Shuri, right out of the comics, when it was her turn of becoming Black Panther. It was her turn ruling in Wakanda. Straight story beats right out of the comics. So I had no issue with seeing it, portrayed on screen, because it's from the source material, right? And source material with some adaptation and creative licensing. So I didn't have any problems or issues with it. I really enjoyed, I'll say this, how I really do see the movie. The movie was a great continuation of the second movie, and I think it was a good movie to close out Phase 4 of the MCU, because I felt like Phase 4 was not that good. There's some movies that I like within Phase 4. I'll say this, I definitely enjoyed Shang-Chi. If out of anything from Phase 4 I might have to do a ranking. It's not gonna be a top 10, but I'll definitely do a ranking of how I see Phase 4. Because I'm not overjoyed about it, but out of the theatrical runs of Phase 4, Shang-Chi, and then followed up with this movie of Wakanda Forever, and if Wakanda is closing out Phase 4, I think it's a highlight of a movie to do so. Honestly, I could have seen it as a miniseries, because it elevated these side characters, these supporting characters, to be co-leads. So they had a lot more to do, because the movie is dealing with the absence of your main character. So it was all these paths of this grieving process, and these adventures that these people had to deal with. And I know I'll call it adventures, but it was these plot story points. Ramonda is dealing with politics. Shuri is dealing with her grief. Okoye is dealing with her position. You have Nakia dealing with her outreach program. And, they all culminate to form this movie. But I just definitely felt like a lot of the fat could have been trimmed, as a nitpick. I also didn't like those Midnight Angel outfits. As soon as I saw them, I thought of Power Rangers. And me thinking of Power Rangers is, I used to be a fan of Power Rangers. I'm not as enthusiastic as I once was. But I just, that's TV budget. You know, I just thought TV budget, y'all could have done a lot better with that. But I didn't feel like they were unnecessary. I just didn't like the character design of what they were. But Shuri brought out that she was bringing out notes, or Okoye was bringing in notes. So I thought that about the character or the design of the outfit. So I thought that was funny. But when it came to what it was on screen, I was like, ugh, that's nasty. I didn't like it. Overall, before I end this video, I feel like the arc of what Shuri had to go through between plot A or point A to point B of growing and coming to a resolve of dealing with the losses that she has to deal with. I feel like it was handled real well, and I felt like it was purposeful. And definitely with her dealing with the introduction of Namor and with his introduction, he wasn't allowing her to be diplomatic. And they have their final fight in the movie. And with that final fight in the movie, it had her reflect on these two powerful nations and what the statuses of what figures mean to certain people. How does that reflect the rest of nations? So I like that they were able to put that in there for her to reflect upon that, which I enjoyed. I also enjoyed, and I just felt like overall, I felt like the movie was definitely an emotional farewell to Chadwick Boseman. I felt like the movie honored him and T'Challa. I also felt like the character work in uplifting Shuri and all the other leads, especially with M'Baku, I have come down from the mountains. I felt like he was a good mentor, big brother, additive for Shuri, especially now he has to be elevated and moving forward because the dynamics of Wakanda has definitely changed. And now he can't be challenged. If you saw the movie, you know what that means. So I definitely appreciated that overall. I think the movie is, yes, one of the best looking that the MCU has now. And I just feel like everything culminated with the introduction of Namor and Riri. Was able to be a little bit of homework for what's to come further down the line, but great additives to who they are. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Namor, and I'm hesitantly okay with Riri's show. I didn't really like her in the comics or in the comic books like that. To me personally, she's not a bad character. It's just a lot. She doesn't go through there's not a lot of substance around her arcs. Her as a character, she's written very well, but her comics aren't compelling enough. So I'm kind of like hold on to what the show is, But it's cool that she gonna get one because I love Dominique Storm performances. With all that being said, those are my thoughts. Please have this conversation with me down in the comments below. Definitely helps with the algorithm, helps with the channel. Trying to grow this community so that we can all have a cup of coffee together. But I give my Nerdy Brew grade of this movie was strong, 8.3. I did not watch other YouTubers who are upset about the movie because I enjoyed myself and I had a good time. But with all that being said, I'm going to bring this video to an end. Please let your comments me know. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I want you to be you, do you see the bigger picture. Have a fantastic day because you deserve it. This is that channel. Peace.
On top, kung fu, Bruce Lee chop, moon rocks, go Red Sox, tryna go far like Boondocks, headshot, blunt stay hot, talking shit, gotta pull up on they block.